Hello and welcome to the tutorial toolbox. My name is Tobias and this is Unity 101. In this tutorial we are going to go over the basics of Unity, so I assume you have already downloaded and installed it. Throughout the series we are going to learn how to use Unity, and eventually we are going to create a game of our own. So let's start off by opening up Unity. I'm using the latest version, Unity 4.5, the latest stable version that is. There is currently a beta version, 4.6, and it should work similarly to 4.5, but in 4.6 there's also some additional features, but of course we won't be going into them quite yet. The first thing that you're gonna notice when I open this is that I have already have a project started. So let's take care of that by creating a new project. We can do that by going to File, New Project. And here we have a dialog. We have the project wizard. We can either choose to open a project from one of the projects that we have, or we can choose to create a new project. And first of all, it wants the location. And I keep my development folders and such programs, whatever it is I'm developing. I keep that on a separate portion of my hard drive called the D drive. And in there I have a folder called Unity. And then this last part is the folder that it's going to create, TTT, the tutorial toolbox. Down here we have a scroll menu with some packages that we can use that Unity provides us that contains some items or scripts or whatever that makes it easier to develop the game. Also, here is going to be, if you ever download something from the asset store, uh, it's going to show up in this drop-down menu as well. Not drop-down, scroll, whatever, panning kind of thing. But we're not going to worry about that right now. And also, it asks us what kind of defaults we want to set up, if we want to use 3D or 2D. Um, in this series, we're going to be using 3D, but the environment is pretty much the same, and well, everything is pretty much the same in 2D as it is in 3D, except for the fact that in 2D you're most often going to want to use 2D images sprites instead of 3D models and stuff because, well, yeah, it's going to take less processing power and etc. So let's create this, and Unity is going to restart for us. And first of all, you see we have this giant window. This is the scene. Um, the way Unity works is that we have different scenes which can be thought of as levels in our game. So we start off with a simple scene, and this scene view is the 3D representation of our scene. Um, so this is basically where we're going to build our world and where the player is going to be moving around, but it's going to look different when it's rendered as the game. So there's some controls as to how you can move around in this scene. If you hold your left mouse button, you select. You can see here I'm selecting the camera. And if you hold down the right mouse button, in this view, the right mouse button allows us to pan around. Well, not pan, rotate around the fixed point that we are at. Using the mouse keys, only the mouse keys, WASD does not work, but using the mouse keys, we can move around, and then we can rotate and move around just like that. Um, so over here is the hierarchy. This is where all the objects in our world is listed. Currently, we all only have our main camera, and it is positioned here. Over here in the inspector, you can see when I select the main camera, a bunch of stuff is going to appear inside the inspector. The inspector is what allows us to see what the camera is. Uh, the camera has 5 different components by default. The transform component, which every object has, this is basically the position, rotation, and scale of the object in the world. So if you've ever worked with 3D modeling, this should be fairly similar or even exactly like normal. It also has a camera component, which is the camera. Then it has some layers that doesn't do anything particularly now. The GUI layer and the flare layer has something to do with how the scene is viewed and is prerequisites of the camera. The camera has some things that we can change here. Uh, Down here you can see the preview, camera preview. This is how the world looks like to the camera right now. You also click game, which is the same, but this is full sized. Clear flags basically means what the camera is going to see behind the rendered world. Right now there's nothing in front of the skybox in this case, or solid color. There's not that much of a difference, but there's some rendering differences that doesn't really matter to us right now, so we're just gonna keep it at skybox. Background is basically the color used to be. You can see down in the camera preview that the color is changing when I'm changing the color. Culling Mask, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure that the Culling Mask is what layers, you can assign layers to the different objects, what layers are shown in the camera. And projection is whether we want a perspective camera or an orthographic camera. And the difference is kind. Let me see if I can just move. You can see here, this is the perspective camera. It scrolls with me, of course. Where maybe this shows better. The perspective camera, where the camera has 4 angles from it going out and expanding into a box, which is the viewing field. And then we have the orthographic camera, where you can see it's a box around the camera that is just one box and it remains the same. So if it doesn't, there's the projection mode of the camera kind of allows you to get different kind of, well, angles and illusions from your scene, and it's something to play around with. There's no real way or right way or wrong way to use the camera or anything in Unity. You can use it exactly however you want it to create the effect that you want. Let's just leave it at perspective for now. Perspective also gives the direct illusion of 3D, whereas with orthographic you have to move the camera in a specific what's it called, angle and position in order to get the effect that you are looking for. And we also have down here the project. I don't widget. Let's call it a widget. The project widget, which has per default a folder called assets, which is where we are going to have all our models and materials and scripts, basically the assets that goes into the game. Is going to be located inside our assets folder, and we can then access it with this project widget. We are going to right click on the asset folder and create a new folder and call it scenes, actually, if I can. um, Scenes. You can change it by clicking once on the name, and then it'll allow you to change it. Scenes, and we are going to save our scene, call it main, inside our scenes folder. And you can now see that inside our scenes folder we have a main scene, and that is this scene right here that currently only contains our camera. We, like any other program, Unity has a header bar, something like that, that has a bunch of options, which we will be going into in the next couple of tutorials. For right now, the only last thing that I'm going to tell you is that, actually two things. You start your game by pressing this start button. As you can see, we switch over to game mode, and if we had anything in the game, it would be shown here. And the other thing is that you can also click these buttons. Well, not buttons, but representations of axes to move around with the camera if you wish to. It allows a better right full-on view of the different components and such. So yeah, this has been Unity 101, very first tutorial, lots to come. Next time we're going to start talking about game objects, which is Unity's way of thinking about all the things that is in a game. And from there on, we will be moving into more advanced topics, and eventually, as I said, we will be making our very own game, so hold on tight. And thank you all for watching. It has been a pleasure, and I'll see you guys next time.